Alright, so I'm going to show how to open up and disassemble this iPhone 7 Plus. So first what you want to do, make sure you get the right tools. You're going to need the regular iPhone pentalobe screwdriver. I think there's a 0.08. And then you'll also need this tri-wing screwdriver. I'm not sure what size it is, but yeah, just make sure you get the right iPhone tools, and then you'll also need one of the small Phillips ones. If you go online, then you can probably find these tools easily. I don't know why my phone's not focusing on it. Come on. There you go. Kind of, not really. Okay, it doesn't really want to focus, but anyways, you'll need those three tools. Okay, so first what you want to do, you want to remove the two screws from the bottom here, so just take those out. All these screws are going to be slightly different, so you kind of want to keep them in order. Make sure you don't get anything mixed up, because if you mix them up, it's going to be very difficult to put your phone back together, or you might damage something putting the wrong screws back in the wrong holes. Okay, so remove the screws. Alright, so there's two on the bottom. Oh, you'll also need a good pry tool, or some people will use a suction cup, but I find a suction cup doesn't work too well when the glass is all shattered, so I just use a very thin pry tool. I have this frosting spatula that I actually sanded down, and then, or I grinded it down, and then I just sharpened it, so it's actually really sharp too. But anyways, you go between the frame right here, and then you can get the tool in and you can pop it up. So on this one, they also broke the home button. You can't actually replace the home button with another home button. If you do, the Touch ID won't work, but you can, if you replace the touch button, they have certain ones where the home button will work for the regular pressing function, but just know that the Touch ID won't work. Okay, so hopefully I can keep this all in view. It's kind of tough. Oops. Make sure autofocus stays on. That's why it was having issues. Okay, so just run the tool, the pry tool, all the way along the sides. Be careful, there's actually a connector towards the side of the phone on this side. So when you lift up the phone, what you want to do is you actually want to pull the screen down this way. Okay, because there's actually some little plastic hooks that hook into the top of the metal frame here. I'm sorry, it's not focusing very well, so I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but anyways, I'm trying to fill as much of the screen so you can get a close-up view to see what I'm doing. But basically, you lift up the bottom half of the screen, and then you pull the top downwards. Sometimes you have to wiggle it a little. If it doesn't want to move, you can use the pry tool to kind of cut the adhesive underneath. Alright. It does get stuck a little, and then once you pull it down, you want to open the screen out this way. Okay, so let's see if I can get this on camera. So there we go. So now that you got the adhesive out, you open it sideways like this. Okay, so as you can see inside here, there's these cables here, and also this cable here for the camera sensors. So let's see if I can do this while in camera. It's weird working on this at a sideways like this. Normally I'd work on it vertically, but I kind of want to show the whole process. So here you can see it has the tri-wing screws, and then also up here is using the tri-wing screws. So on this screwdriver it's nice because I can just flip the bit over, and then I can switch to that. So usually first thing you want to do is disconnect the battery. So undo the screws for this metal plate here. Okay. Alright, just like this. Yeah, it's a little strange working. Oh, why is it so blurry? There you go. Sorry, it's like focusing on my hand. Let's see if I can fix that problem. So I'll make it focus up here. There we go. Hopefully that'll help. Alright, and then remove the last screw here. Alright, once you remove those 4 screws, let's see here. Once you remove those 4 screws, you can take this metal plate out. Alright, you can set it aside. Alright, the battery connector is this one right here. So to remove that, just get your fingernail or a pry tool and kind of just pop that up. Alright, after you pop the battery connector up, hold the power button for about 15 seconds just to make sure there's no power left on the board, because sometimes if you drop something metal on it or you don't disconnect something right, then you can actually fry the board or fry the replacement parts. Okay, so if you want, you can disconnect also the screen cable and the fingerprint cable at the same time. And then we have to remove the connector for the camera and all the sensors in the top. Okay, so I'll remove that as well. That one is held in with, I think, these 3 screws. On some models they actually have, I think it's the iPhone 8 Plus, they only have like 2 screws that hold it, and it's just holding the smaller part of the bracket. So there you go, remove those 3 screws, and then you can take this metal plate out. Alright, just like that. And then pop this connector out as well. This connector might be a little tough, but you basically same thing, just get your fingernail or pry tool underneath. Let's see if I can get it here. Okay, just like that. Hopefully you can see that. And then once you get all of those out, you can remove the screen. So this one, you don't need to do anything with it, so just set it aside. Alright, make sure the battery connector doesn't reconnect itself. Okay, so now we have to replace the home button and remove the camera sensor. So those pieces need to be removed. For that, you actually need to use a little heat, and it helps to use like a small needle or something. So the home button on this one's broken, so I'm not really gonna have to remove that, but we'll do it anyways. Okay, so first what you want to do is remove all the screws. So there's 4 tri-wing screws here, and then there's also some tri-wing screws on the sides, so you have to remove the tri-wing screws from the side as well. So we'll do that. Alright, so I'm going to remove the tri-wing screws from the side first. Sorry if I go out of view, it's really weird, awkward for me to film with the camera sideways, but I kind of want to give a close view of everything, and it's tough. It's very tough to do that if I have to keep moving the camera, so I'm trying to just keep it set at one position. Alright, so just do that. And then remove the 3 from this side. So one side has 2 screws and the other side has 3 screws, okay? Keep that in mind. Don't mix up these screws again because they are all different sizes, different lengths. And they also, yeah, if you do that, you can actually end up damaging the screen because the screw might screw in too far. Okay, then you want to remove all the screws for the button down here. Alright, so we'll remove those. So there's actually 4 screws holding this button, and to be safe, usually I like to use my finger to put pressure behind the button, so that way when you unscrew it, you're not pushing the button out of the screen, and then you can accidentally rip the cable. Okay. Alright, so now that we got all those screws out. Alright, so we got those 4 screws out. Once you got those 4 screws out, you can set this metal plate aside as well. Alright, and then to separate the two, the connector here, I found it works best. I don't know if you can see that, it's going to focus weird. But it works best if you use your fingernail to pull the top one and then put one fingernail below, and then you can pop the 2 layers apart. It's kind of hard to tell because there's like this foam layer on the top piece, but basically get your fingernail at the foam and then just pull it down, and that should pull the bottom part of the connector out. Okay, so there you go. The home button is disconnected. I don't need to remove this home button, but I'll show it just because most people are going to want to swap this over. So to do this, you want to heat up the home button. I have this little heater thing I use, so I just heat it up. I just lean it against the heater. You can use anything like a hair dryer or something just to warm it up. If you're brave, you can even put it like over a candle, but that's kind of dangerous, so I wouldn't do that. But it's doable. But basically you just heat it up, and then once it's warm enough, you can tell because when you touch it, the glass will kind of like burn your finger. If you can't leave your finger on there too long, then you know it's ready. Okay. Alright. You don't want to heat it too much because then you can damage stuff. You just want to heat it enough to make the adhesive kind of gooey. You can even leave it under the sun and that would work. If you just left this outside, it'll get warm enough to where the adhesive is soft. So once you do that, oh, I think there's the damage that they have. Okay, so once you do that, you use the needle and then you just pry underneath. So you can get the needle underneath the adhesive. Make sure if your home button is working to be very careful at this point, because if you destroy this button, you'll never get Touch ID back. So that's very important. Okay, so use the needle and then just go along, and that's how you remove it. So I found that this works best. You basically have this needle and I bent it with some pliers, so that way when I use the needle to get underneath, I actually scrape along this way so that the needle isn't like going that way to poke into the cable. So I use the bent edge to actually use to scrape up the adhesive. Okay, so this home button's not working, so we're just gonna set that aside. I think someone installed it wrong because this little part, I don't know if you can see, it's, how do I keep the, let me turn on autofocus. Okay, so I don't know why, but the autofocus isn't working. There we go. But anyways, this little circle piece, it's supposed to go over a raised nub on the screen. So yeah, okay, anyways, so we got the home button out, and then now we're gonna remove all the other screws. So this one screw here at the bottom is actually a Phillips screw, or the cross. So yeah, so I saved that one. I usually save that one for last because it's different and then it matches the ones at the top. So I'll remove that one screw, and then I'll remove all the screws up here. Okay. So I'll remove those screws. Okay, again, you don't want to mix these screws up, so usually what I do is I just lay them out in the pattern that I'm taking them out, so that way I can tell where they go afterwards. All right. Okay, once you get all those screws out, you can remove this metal plate that's on top. Okay, hopefully this is visible. Let me see if I can do like an autofocus thingy or manually set the focus point. Okay, so you remove this metal plate. Then you can lift the camera up, be gentle with it, and then you can take the speaker piece out. Okay, so this speaker has these little spring-loaded contact points, and that's how it connects to the phone. Okay, so the hardest part here is actually removing all of this glued in stuff. So again, we're gonna have to use the heater. Okay, so this part has a lot of little components that are stuck in, so it's actually quite difficult to remove it. You will have to use the needle and then be very careful. I've seen a lot of people that try and do this and then they damage the sensors. So if you're gonna do this, just be very careful, be gentle, and work slowly. Don't try and pry anything with too much force. Okay, sometimes it helps also to flip the screen the other way and heat up the other side. Just a little bit, just to get it a little warm, but you don't want to heat it too much because you can damage the camera sensor that way. Okay, so we'll heat it up some more. Okay, get up a little bit more. Oops. Oh, it's not focusing again. I don't know why it won't focus. There we go. Okay, that's probably warm enough, so I'll set that aside. And then use the needle. So I like to start with the little 4 dots. Let's see if I can somehow focus on this. So I like to focus or start with the little 4 dots here. So just get the needle underneath Okay, once you get the needle underneath, you can slide it all the way across. Again, I like to use the non-sharp edge to slide it across, just so if anything, it won't poke through. Okay, so just slide it across like that. So here you can see those 4 little connectors came up. All right, hopefully you can see it. Sorry, it's really difficult to make it focus on this stuff. Okay, then you got to get these 2 pieces out up here. This is the most painful part. Oh, actually, it came out really easy for some reason. So normally that part, it gets stuck in there because they put like a slight adhesive. And then this side as well gets a little stuck. Okay, so this one's actually still difficult. So I usually work it all the way around in a circle, going from left to right and just back and forth, slowly working on it. All right. Usually this piece, actually the thing that's holding it is like a clear plastic, like this camera piece. That's not really necessary because the other one will have it already. So if you want, what I sometimes will do is use the needle and then pry the whole plastic assembly out. And then after I remove that whole plastic assembly, then I'll work on pulling it separate from the sensor. But as you can see here, hopefully you can see it, there's the plastic, the clear plastic piece there. And then you just pull that separate. So here you can see the sensor will come away from this, but they put a slight adhesive, so it's kind of difficult. There you go. So there you can see there's the clear piece that's still in there, and then you got the sensor. All right, and then the same thing to remove the whole connector. You have to go all the way down this piece. So I'm gonna apply some more heat because it feels like it's getting stuck again. So let's heat it up some more. Use that to hold it in place. Alright, should be warm enough. Alright, after you do that, just go again along this piece. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Sometimes it helps to start from this side, closer to the speaker hole, and then you can lift up, you can even lift up that whole piece. So we'll lift that up. So here you can actually lift up the whole rubber speaker mount. And then once you do that, it makes a little gap there, and then you can slide the tool underneath. Okay. So once you get the tool underneath, all right, slide it all the way across the other way. So it does take quite a bit of force to remove this adhesive. If you want, you can keep using more heat, but I just peel it away like this. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Alright, so there we go. That's the microphone. And then you can slide your tool down this way as well, and to get the rest of this out. So they do also put some like double stick adhesive piece here that you might have to transfer over because a lot of times it doesn't go. And then after that I can peel this whole piece off. So here you can see these gold contacts here. They're supposed to be covered with basically this, I guess it's kind of like electrical tape. So if you do lose this, or if you can't recover this black plastic piece, you can actually use electrical tape. Just cut it to the right size and stick it on top. So I'll peel this out. All right. Okay. And then we basically just stick this back on top of those gold contacts. Sometimes it'll come away with the connector, but if it doesn't, if it gets stuck, then you have to remove it separately, just like this. Okay, and then you just stick this, you just stick that piece on top. There you go, to cover all those golden contacts. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. I hate how it doesn't focus properly, but there you go. I stuck that back on top. And now we just transfer everything over. Oh, there's one more. Sorry, this metal plate. So you have to peel this piece up, and then you pull this back. This piece, it holds the this thick piece in place, so that way when you close the screen it doesn't go out of place and end up pressing against the screen. So try and keep this piece safe. Okay, once you peel that adhesive all the way back, then you can lift this metal plate up and then just guide the cables through just like this. Okay, so that's how you remove that piece. And then now this is pretty much garbage. We'll get the replacement screen. When you get the replacement screen, make sure to clean off your work area so you don't have shards of glass, because if you have shards of glass there, it can scratch the new replacement screen. Okay, so what I like to do is I'll put the old screen away in the packaging of the new one. Alright, and then wipe down my surface. Make sure there's no glass shards in there. Okay. I think I just stabbed myself with some glass. Okay, so wipe down your surface, make sure there's no glass there. Okay, once you do that, prepare your new screen, peel off the tape stuff. Alright. Just like that. Get off this layer as well. Okay, toss that stuff, peel off the adhesives. Okay, this part this adhesive or protective stuff I'll leave on there for now, and then I'll take it off when I go to install the rest. Okay, so again, we thread this through, thread the cables through here. Alright, just like that. Line it up. These cables, sometimes they're not fully extended, so you might have to manually pull them out while you thread this through, but don't pull too hard because they are kind of fragile. Alright, just like that, and then get this adhesive lined up first. Okay, just like that. Make sure it goes around this piece, and that should keep it in the right place. Alright. And make sure these cables are all lined up. Sometimes, to make it easier, I'll put back the one screw here first. So take that one screw. And I don't tighten it all the way until after I get the other screws in, so I'll just tighten it slightly. I don't know if you can even see what I'm doing, but okay, tighten it slightly just so it's there to hold the plate. Alright, and then we'll go and put the camera sensors back in place. Alright, try and line up the little sensors in the this little area first, because those are kind of the most difficult. Well, actually, you can line up the two dimples here with the golden contacts for the speaker, so that actually helps align the whole thing. Okay, so line those two up first, and then push it down. Alright, so here you can see I got those connectors lined up, and then you can worry about these sensors. Be careful not to touch inside the camera lens, because then you can dirty it and then it's not going to work properly. You're going to have a blurry image. Alright, I'll get these lined up. This one sensor is usually a little difficult because it needs to go straight down, so sometimes you have to use like a needle to kind of help level it out while you're placing it, just to get it to go straight into that slot. Okay, if it's going at a slight angle, it's not going to go in because the slot is almost perfectly sized for the sensor. Okay, this is pretty tough to do. Okay, it doesn't want to go in. This one's always a little painful to put. Come on, go in. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. I'm trying to focus on this because it's such a pain. But this sensor is the most difficult one to put back in. Once you get that lined up and it goes in properly, then the rest should be pretty simple. Okay, come on, go in. There we go. So now we got those two sensors in. So hold that down and then put the speaker in place. Okay. Make sure the screw holes line up. All right. Once you got that in place, then put the camera into its spot. All right. All right. Now that you got the camera in place, get the metal plate, put it back on top. Okay. And then proceed with putting back in the screws. Hopefully you can see, hopefully everything I'm doing is in view of the camera. Okay, so again, I like to tighten them, not tighten them all the way, just loosely. Uh-oh, my battery's, oh, my battery's dying. I don't know if it'll let me turn the flash back on. Well, it won't let me turn the flash back on. Hopefully it has enough light for you to see what I'm doing. All right, hold that down. Tighten the other screw here. All right, grab the other screws. I mean, this is pretty much all there is to it. Basically, reassembling is just doing everything in reverse. So, just put these screws. Again, I don't tighten them all the way the first time because it needs to be aligned. So now we'll do the side screws just to make sure it's all aligned, and then you can tighten everything down. All right, so now we'll do these. Okay, and while I'm tightening the side screws, I like to hold down the case, or the metal plate, so that way it makes sure that the metal plate is held down properly, not like slightly raised. Okay. Alright, now that we got all these screws in, we can start tightening them down all the way. So I'll hold this one down first, and then I will tighten this screw in all the way. Okay, go to this one, same thing, tighten it all the way. Go to this one, tighten it all the way. Go to this other side. Make sure it's all tightened down completely. Okay, switch back to the Phillips screwdriver. Tighten the bottom screw. Okay, back to the screen, or the camera sensors. Tighten that all the way. Alright. There we go. So now you got all of those. Now we need to replace the home button. So we got a replacement home button here. These aftermarket ones. They're designed to let the home button work, but yeah, the the Touch ID won't work. So there's no way around this, even with a genuine Apple button. it's not going to work. So just know that. Okay, so here's the replacement button. So again, like I was saying earlier, I didn't peel this up, so I'll peel it slightly back. And when you have that peeled back, you insert the home button through the front of the screen. Okay, just like this. Alright, then I put this plastic back so it holds the home button in place. Alright, and then you got to make sure that the connector goes underneath the one that's built into the screen. So lift up the one for the screen and then set this down. Alright. There's no adhesive on the back of this home button sensor, it looks like. Yeah, so if you want, you can use some double stick adhesive, but usually it's going to be okay without it. So just line this up. Alright. You want to get the little hole to line up, the one that's in the front of the screen. So there's this little hole. Oh, probably can't see it, but there's this little hole with a raised plastic bit that you want to make sure it goes in the right place. Then you just fold this over, line it up, and snap it down. Alright, so there we go. We got that snapped in place. So the reason you don't need all the adhesive stuff here is because this metal plate, of course, is going to hold it down. So to do this, usually I'll put the two outer ones first. Okay, so put the two outer screws back in first. Alright. Oh, I'm using the wrong screwdriver. Make sure you switch back to the right screwdriver, the tri-wing. Alright, put that one screw in. Okay, again, I don't tighten it all the way, just enough to hold it in place. Then we'll go with the other screw on the outside. Okay, just like that. Put in the screw there. Right, once you got those two, it should be lined up so you can tighten them all the way down. Alright, and then we'll do the last two screws. I'll usually do the home button last. Okay, just do the other screw here, and then get the screw for the home button. Alright, and again, I like to put pressure on the back of the home button just to make sure it doesn't get pushed out of the screen, and then tighten that in place. Alright, now we got that, so you got the home button here. Alright, now we just have to reattach the screen connectors and then put the metal plates back in place. So usually it helps to put the top one first because then you have more motion of the screen. It is a bit difficult because the cable's all bent weird, it's not easy. So you kind of have to rotate the screen in a way that allows you to put this cable flat. Okay. So just do that. Make sure it's all lined up. Hopefully the people that attempt this kind of stuff watch the whole video before they attempt it, just so they know what they're in for. And the worst thing you can do is bring someone a phone that you've partially taken apart and left all the screws and dumped them all in a bag. So if you're going to attempt this, make sure that you're going to put it back together, because if you go to somebody with the screws all taken out in a bag, yeah, no, they're going to hate you for that, and they're going to have to charge you more. So just know that if you're going to attempt this by yourself. Okay. Yeah, some people would bring me their phones where it's already like taken apart partway, and they're like, well, I did like half the work for you. And I'm like, okay, well, if you put all the screws back yourself, then I'll accept that as you did part of the work. But if you made it more difficult and you're expecting me to put it back, it's kind of like if you have a puzzle that's already solved and then you start taking it apart and then you hand them all the pieces in a bag and then tell them, okay, here's the puzzle. It's a lot, yeah, they're gonna have to do a lot of work to figure out where all the pieces go versus they already have the completed puzzle that you're giving them. Okay, so again, keep that in mind if you're gonna do this on your own, that either you better remember where everything goes so you can put it back on your own, or expect to pay more if you're bringing it to somebody else to fix it after you've taken everything out. Okay, then you got these connectors here. Alright, just line it up, push it down. Same thing with this one, line it up, push it down. Let's see, this one connector's a little bit of a pain. Here we go. Okay, so this phone, when they brought it to me, it was doing something weird. I've never seen this message before. Okay, so once you get those connectors in, I like to test it before I put everything completely back. So we'll turn it back on. Hopefully it still has a charge. Oh, I guess it's not charged. Yeah, I think the charge is dead. But I guess that's all there is to this. You basically put the other metal plate back in. I guess I'll show that. The charge part, it's going to take a while to charge it up for me to work on it. I will just get something to plug it in just to make sure it turns on. Let's see here. The iPhone cable. I don't know if I have an iPhone charging cable. Oh, here we go. We'll see if it turns on. Okay, here we go. So we'll plug the phone in, charge it. My charger's low on battery, so I don't know. Let's see if it's gonna start up. Okay, it's showing the low battery signal, so yeah. So I'm just gonna assume it's working for now and put the metal plates back in. Okay, so we'll put the last metal plate back on top. If you're doing this, be very careful because right now the phone has power on it and you don't want to drop anything in the circuits or you can damage everything. So just be very careful. All right. Put the one screw in. Okay. I usually like to, I don't know if you noticed, but I usually like to turn it backwards a few times just to feel it click so I know that it's in the screw hole area. Okay. All right. Oops. Alright, once you get all the screws back in, then tighten them all down. Alright, once you got all the screws in, put the top of the screen in first when the screen is slightly open at an angle like that, and then you can snap down the sides. Just be careful. If the sides don't go down, make sure to check that, redo the screws on the side if you did it wrong. Alright, so now we just gotta wait for this to charge. But that's pretty much all there is to it. So hopefully this video helped you. If it did, please like and subscribe because that'll help me. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.